With the evolving regulatory landscape, what do you find are the key challenges that legal and compliance teams are facing? And how do you really see that across industries as well, not just within that one?
Okay, so there's probably three big aspects to that question. The first aspect is in terms of the heavily regulated industries, and while we often think of finance, you're absolutely right, it's a big industry, pharma and so forth, is the regulations, some of them are changing, but they're not changing very much. What's really changing is the way that the regulator is interpreting them, right? And in addition to that, the regulatory stance is definitely a little bit more, let's say, muscular, for want of a better word. So that's the first thing. You've seen some very big fines for firms which haven't captured WhatsApp, as an example, and that's because the regulator has said, look, it's all communications. It's not some communications. We know you're doing this, so therefore you need to supervise it, capture it, and so forth. So that's one aspect. So regulations not necessarily changing much, but the interpretation, how they're being lived is. So that's one. I think the second one is we're seeing a lot of focus on privacy, particularly in Europe, but not just in Europe. We've seen California, there's a number of US states. There was a move for a US-wide, I think that's probably going to peter out now with the new government in Washington. But so you've got privacy, and that's a big challenge, and that's a very sensitive issue because it goes right to the rights of a citizen. So that's something that can get out of hand very quickly if it's not well managed and well looked after. And then probably more prevalent to Europe, we're seeing a lot of focus on AI type legislation. How's it gathered? How's it stored? The security? That all makes perfect sense, but also how's it being used? And so the European AI Act is actually only one of about 5 pieces of legislation coming through Europe around how this data gets managed. So I think these are the kind of 3 pillars that are impacting their world right now.
You talked a little bit about the EU AI Act, and I know there's no real equivalent to it right now in the US or really in North America in general. How do you find that they're going to go through that process now that it's catching up to them?
Well, so that's very interesting. So obviously every organization has to decide how to interpret the laws themselves, right? But the EU AI Act is I think it's pretty much extraterritorial in terms of, if you've got European data, it falls under the Act. So it will come into the purview of US firms, many firms. And actually it does bring up the topic of multi-jurisdictional challenges as well, which is just one more aspect, I guess, to worry about. But I think we're going to see with the AI Act, as we saw with GDPR. So when GDPR first came out, a lot of firms, particularly in the States, were kind of going, oh, this is more regulation, this is a pain. But some organizations said, actually, this is an opportunity to get our data sorted out once and for all. And they actually saw it as a commercial opportunity. They then moved. And then the rest of the industry kind of said, oh, actually, maybe this isn't so bad. And GDPR has become the legislative gold standard for privacy legislation. I think we'll see something similar to the AI Act. The AI Act has become a little bit more politicized, certainly. So some people do see it as being, is it a restraint on the industry or not? I think it's a restraint on the use of the data. But actually, it is, as is with GDPR, it is geared to facilitate the growth of AI. So whilst the jury is out, I think there's a very real chance that it becomes the model, the gold standard for future legislation in other parts of the world.